Hi everybody, this is Heather with the Eastern Panhandle Conservation District, and we are going to go over some lessons on the water cycle. This presentation is broken up into two parts. So the first part is going to be a very introductory based format for elementary school students, and the second half of the presentation is going to be a touch more in depth and geared toward middle and high school students. Both presentations are going to go over the water cycle and then also some extension activities that can be done that are very hands-on to kind of help reinforce what was learned with the water cycle. So the water cycle for the elementary students, we're going to go over what is the water cycle, why it's important to us, and then go over those activities that can reinforce what the water cycle is. So what exactly is the water cycle? So it is how water travels all around our Earth. So we know that some water is in a solid form, such as this glacier. We know some water is in liquid forms, like we most likely see, such as in this ocean or in our rivers and streams and ponds. And then we also know that some water is in the vapor form, which is most easily seen in clouds. So those are the three forms or states of water. And how much water is there actually on Earth? So we know in our oceans, they take up the largest portion of our Earth, as seen with the picture, and that's almost 97%. Or the ice, so thinking of like our glaciers or the North Pole, the South Pole, those take up almost 2%, along with our lakes and our streams, and even underground beneath our feet, there's actually water deep down in our Earth, and that also takes up another 2%. And then water vapor, so the water that's up, that we can't always necessarily see, the water in the clouds. So that's 0.001%, so a very small percentage. And why is water so important? Basically, without it, no life can be supported. So that's why, of course, that everybody lives on Earth, because it is the only planet that is able to actually support life. So what exactly does a water cycle look like? So here's a really good basic understanding of the water cycle. And the sun is actually what generates the water cycle. So without the sun, we would have no water cycle. So the sun kind of heats everything up and gets the process started. So if we have our water, like our water vapor in the cloud, okay, so we know it's kind of hanging out there in the sky. When that cloud gets so full with so much of that water vapor, it can't hold it anymore. So then it comes down as precipitation. So kind of what we think of as rain. When that rain comes down, it falls onto the ground, and it'll eventually flow either down into the soil or off into a pond or a stream. And then that sun will heat up that water, and then it goes back up into the clouds into evaporation. So we have the sun starting, we go to the clouds, which is condensation. We come down from the rain cloud as precipitation. And then we're going to go off into the water, our pond, our river, our stream. And then we're going to go back up into the sky with evaporation. So what are some activities that can kind of reinforce the water cycle and to give you a more hands-on learning approach to the water cycle? These are two songs that I really like. The first song, The Water Cycle Boogie by the Banana Slug String Band. It's really fun. It's really catchy. It gets stuck in your head. So that's a great introductory song to the water cycle. The Water Cycle by Scratch Garden is another really good song, and it's also a really nice video that illustrates along with the song. So those are two great songs and videos that I really like for that elementary level introduction to the water cycle. Some activities with the water cycle. So we have the journey of the water cycle, and it takes a bit to set up and prep, but it's an interactive game that covers all kinds of aspects of the water cycle. So you're going to go over anything from plants and animals to the soil, to oceans, to clouds, to rain. Like I said, it does take a little bit of time to set up, but if you put some effort into the construction of your setup, this game will be able to last you for several times. And then more information on the water cycle, and that can be found by visiting Climate Kids, which is through NASA. And it has all kinds of other activities that you can do. And it also has a bunch of really neat facts. Now moving on into the water cycle geared for middle and high school students. Again, we're going to go over what the water cycle is, why it's important to us, and then some more activities. So here you can see that this is a lot more in-depth version of the water cycle. There's a lot more components that you can see with this image by USGS, which is the United States Geological Survey. And we got a little bit of further definition, and it's the path that the water follows the different states. So of course we have our liquid, our solids, and our gas. And you can see it has, of course, our volcanic steam and some things like instead of having the basic evaporation, condensation, precipitation, we have things like sublimation and deposition. So sublimation is going to be from a solid to a gas. So think of when you plug in a deep freezer and it gets all iced up. That's going to be that kind of example of sublimation. So you're going from kind of that solid of that ice crystals in your freezer. We have deposition, which is from a gas to a solid. So think of something like snow. When at first it doesn't change to rain, it goes straight from the cloud as water vapor right into snow. And then of course we have things like evapotranspiration, which kind of combines all types of transpiration and evaporation. So transpiration, we kind of think of plants and plants breathing essentially. So you can see that there's really more than those 3 steps that we always hear about. So we kind of go into more of that hydrologic water cycle. That includes, of course, condensation and precipitation, but it also goes into infiltration, runoff, and again, that evapotranspiration, which includes all types of that evaporation and transpiration. And then why is water so important? Because we know that there is no more water to go around. We know that the same water that was here, that when the earth was started, is the same water that we're always going to have. It can't be created, can't be destroyed. It just takes another form. So you can see here by this chart, of course, again, you have about that 97% that's in our oceans. And then you go all the way down to that biological water. So that's the water that we can actually drink and not get sick. So that total percentage, you know, that 0.003 kind of looks big, but then when you actually looked at the percentage of the total water that we have available to us, you know, you get that 0.0001. Okay, so not a whole lot of actual good, clean water. But what if you live in a city? Okay, so you're actually going to have another water cycle because if you lived out in the country, you live on a well, when you turn your faucet on, that water is actually coming from that underground aquifer and coming out of your sink. When you live in a city and you're actually having your water supplied to you, the urban water cycle also affects you. So you have our wastewater going out, that water has to get treated and then put back into the water supply system. So a couple activities that can be done at this level when we're talking about that transpiration. It's obviously, since we're talking about gas forms of water, we're not going to be able to see it. But if you take a plastic baggie, especially a clear plastic baggie, that way you can see it and also allows the sunlight to come in a little bit more easily. You can put that plastic baggie over a plant, a tree limb, anything that you have. And you can kind of watch that process of the water cycle and you'll be able to see those water droplets on the bag. Of course, if you're ever out in the wilderness and you lost your canteen, you ran out of water, the same principle can be applied and you can actually collect water that way to be able to drink. Another activity that I really like doing, and this is actually great for all ages and grade levels, it's very, very adaptable, is the water cycle in a bag. So this bag is from reallygoodstuff.com, and it comes pre-labeled with everything that you need for your water cycle to kind of watch your water cycle in a bag. You can also just take a regular sandwich baggie and make your water cycle as complex or as simple as you would like it to be. And then you just simply hang it up in a sunny window. Masking tape works just fine to be able to hold those sandwich baggies up halfway filled with water. You can do some experiments, such as, how long it takes to start the water cycle process before you see it. You can also take different colors of water and make some hypotheses on if you think that when the water cycle process starts and you see that condensation on the side of the bag, is that dyed water going to follow those water droplets on the side of the bag, or is the water droplets going to remain clear? So again, these are two different activities that you can do to add on as extension and kind of some hands-on projects for the water cycle. Again, this presentation was through the Eastern Panhandle Conservation District. This is an example of projects that we would be doing in the school system or community groups throughout the year. So we're just trying to give you different things that you can do at home with your children or whoever you have in your house to be able to still learn some science, especially if you're doing these things in their homework. You might not be exactly sure what they're talking about. So we're just trying to help you out. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My contact information is there, and I will be happy to help you out now or even to try to start planning for next year and projects. So again, thank you and good luck.